Welcome to my first impression of the Digitone. Sorry, I always mess up the pronunciation. I've got t-shirts now. I'm wearing it right now. I'm still pretty new to these like do-it-all type boxes, and we'll just be getting into the touch and go functions of the Digitone. And just my first general impressions of the instrument thus far, so this isn't like a full-on detailed walkthrough or anything like that. It's more of a, is this right for you type video. I'm absolutely loving this thing thus far, so consider that, but also take it with a grain of salt. I'm not getting into like the aesthetic of the instrument or anything like that.
The thing's friggin' beautiful, man.
This is like purely performance oriented. The one thing that really struck me right away is that this is an FM synth. And so you already knew that, but like it's an FM synth, meaning that the sounds are very FM-y sounding. Synth Sounds.
Bass.
Are you kidding me? Jerry bass? Oh.
Nothing for you. This is so fucking good.
Now there's obviously some sounds that are less FM-y on the Digitone, but I think that it's a very dominant quality of the instrument. And so that's just something to consider. Evidently. The workflow of the Digitone is a little bit copy-pasty, but I actually don't mind that. We'll take a quick look at actually plugging in notes and sequences. So all of these lit up notes here, that's an outline of a keyboard. You press the record button, and now this becomes a sequencer where you could actually plug in notes. You could sequence any instrument that you want, but I've been using it mostly for drum patterns. I'll program a simple kick pattern here just to start with. I'm going to erase the masterpiece that I just created. I've created a sound pool, which is essentially just a pool of sounds to choose from. And so these are all drum sounds. Let's go with that. Donk kick does sound good. And now I'm going to copy paste that to the quarter notes. And there we have a kick pattern. And now if I want, I have the option of performing notes into this pattern. So I'll do that next. If your playing's a little bit sloppy or you just want it to be like completely on the grid, you could quantize it. You could either make it fully quantized, so perfectly on the grid, or anything in between. I'm obviously not limited to a bar in this pattern. If I want, I can increase it to 4 bars. If you're into odd time music, you also have the option of odd time signatures. Let's try something out. 13/16. You have an option of 16 patterns as well as 8 banks, which is, in my opinion, more than enough for a live performance. If I want, I could go back to specific notes within the sequence and change the parameters of that note. LFO, drive, ADSR, effects, filter, you get the point. Subscribe. Also, not to mention that I could change all of these sounds after actually programming them into the Digitone if I'm not feeling it. And I could do all of this on the fly, which makes the Digitone a live sequencing monster. There are some setbacks, just like any other piece of gear. And you know, the typical creative person would say something like, I actually like the limitations because they push me creatively, which definitely is true, but there are moments where I wish I could do more. You're limited to 4 tracks. And in my opinion, 4 tracks would be okay if you had more freedom to layer with your drums. There are ways of maneuvering samples around to layer them in a sequence, but there's only 16 notes per page. Personally, I found myself having to use 2 tracks to get the layering that I want with drums, which doesn't really leave much else for other instruments. That being said though, like I'm a really big fan of layers with drums, so maybe you're not. Something to consider. I don't really like the way this keyboard looks. Maybe it's just because I'm not used to it yet, but it kind of confuses me. I find that I constantly have to remind myself that this is a C and this is also a C. It looks like it could be an F, like on the layout of the keyboard. I don't know, it's just, I haven't gotten used to it yet. Looking at the OP1, you can see that the keyboard layout, it just looks like a piano. I don't get that same simplicity with this layout. Another thing to consider is that every single synth is designed with a hook. What I mean by that is company X will intentionally design an instrument with like holes and functions that are missing, and they'll fill in those holes with another instrument, so you have to buy that. And I think that we could blame capitalism for that one. So in this instance, the sampling capabilities of the Digitakt are far superior to that of the Digitone, so it fills in that hole. So I guess the ultimate conclusion of this video is buy both. Apparently like 80% of the people that are watching my videos are not subscribers, so hit the subscribe button, you freeloaders. Later.